Well, Helldivers continues to make headlines, and you don't normally see this amount of news dropping on a Saturday. But normal was thrown right out the door August 26th. We've got everything here, ranging from player counts to galactic war drama, with calls for Arrowhead to rework the system, PC crashing woes, the CEO responding to questions, and a whole lot more. So if all that sounds good to you, stick around. If you want to support the channel, please hit subscribe and ring the notifications bell, because we've got a ton to dive into with Helldivers. You know it's going to be an interesting, or at least entertaining discussion when it begins with Arrowhead's CEO Shams Jorjani taking to Discord. And if that name sounds familiar, yes, that's the same Shams Jorjani who's been posting about us players shitting our pants about this new content. Well, anyways, Shams was busy responding up a storm over in the official Discord somewhat late yesterday, answering a ton of member questions, and two in particular caught my attention, which I wanted to pass along to you. The first was when someone asked, since now we get to go underground, would Arrowhead consider giving us even nastier environments or day and night cycles akin to pitch black? That's an interesting request for sure, and so was the answer, confirming that the caves are already very dark, and Arrowhead did experiment with true night in the game already, but it turned Helldivers into too much of a horror game. Pause that thought for a moment, because we'll circle back around to it in just a second for a discussion. And we need to next move on to the second interesting request, as it had to do with the DSS, or Democracy Space Station, when it was asked if other game systems exist to sync samples into besides doing so with the Helldivers Death Star, which is a topic many veteran Helldivers have been having for a long time, and unfortunately the answer was no. But Arrowhead had actually looked into developing certain stratagems that had charges that had to be refilled with samples. Okay, so I think the idea of true Riddick pitch black worlds where there is zero ambient light, requiring the full-time use of a flashlight, is an interesting topic, but probably one that was best left out of the game, at least for the time being. And before someone crashes out and drops a Doom post on me, just hear me out. Helldivers is a hectic, horde-style meme-producing shooter where its strength is its crazy, chaotic combat. And all that frenetic speed and much of the frenzied combat would slow way down if we had to crouch walk across an entire map waving flashlights side to side looking for enemy targets. Plus, we've always had the disadvantage of enemy units being able to locate us behind cover, shooting and bombarding our positions when we were being as quiet as a church mouse, which I think would get even worse if we were cast into the nether realms of full darkness. Now, if Arrowhead gave us night vision in our helmets, game changer, and you can definitely bring on the 𝗙𝗵𝘆𝗹𝗹𝗱 at that point. But until then, probably best this stays tucked away in a file of attempted mechanics that were never installed. Having stratagems that are charged up through the spending of samples, though, is a far more viable option, at least in the short term. And as always, I want you to weigh in on both of these discussion points by dropping a comment down below. But I remember a discussion going around in the community a while back about using samples to purchase temporary stratagem upgrades, like X amount of this sample would give you harder hitting eagle strikes for an hour or two, something like that. And while we didn't have all the details at the time, it sounded like something that, if implemented correctly, could have been a real banger. It's been since July 5th, 2024, since we received a series of ship modules to spend our samples on, with the DSS and its effects being our only main dump point if you decide to even interact with that system and donate to your desired effects. There was also some sort of talk about clans and squads and even like dojos and giving them certain emblems and or cosmetics should they hit certain donation levels, which was also a solid concept. But for now, we're still without a mechanic to donate samples to. But like I said, I want to know where you stand on both of these topics. Am I way off in my thinking, or am I close to the mark? Drop a comment and let's see where you land on these ideas. Two new items have been added to the Helldivers known issues board, as Arrowhead has acknowledged we Helldivers shouldn't be emitting light, especially while outside. That's a good one, along with the point that some weapons may be missing sound effects for some players. Ah yes, sound issues. From chargers not making any sound to weird machine gun sounds in the cities to weapons just not making sound at all, this has been an ongoing battle that the studio has been engaged in between them and their own game engine. And it's been ongoing for a long time. But, you know, I'm really looking forward to the day when a 10-ton charger who's running full speed can be heard before he tramples us from behind. Sweet liberty, that's going to be a joyous day indeed. Players also received a recent emergency hotfix to address issues with players not being able to purchase the Halo Warbond, with the specifics of it relating to owning all the Warbonds and then upgrading up to the Super Citizen Edition. In there as well was the Halo 𝗵𝐴 assault rifle crash fix, which was badly needed. Now, that one was specific as well, as it was caused when multiple players all had the 𝗵𝐴 equipped on their ships, and then the party host would leave the party. Anyways, it's good to see those both addressed. But, you know, one issue that is popping up more and more are these PC full lockup crashes. I'll include this Reddit post down in the video description so you can check it out for yourselves. But fellas, this one is as bad as it gets. PC players can't get their games to launch, like period, while others are crashing out of the game so hard it full locks up their PC rigs to the point that even a Control-Alt-Delete won't bring up their task managers. 𝗕𝗏𝗋𝗃, Phase Shifter, and numerous other creators that I know of are all experiencing this one, and it seems to be the result of combining a few different elements, namely a borked and busted Windows 11 update, a 5090 graphics card, and GameGuard. Now, if you are seeing these issues, check in the video description for a link to the known issues board where you can file a support ticket because it needs to get fixed ASAP. In case you missed it, the 𝗕𝗏𝗍𝗶𝘀𝗀𝗃 alternate shop offerings were recently posted over in the official Helldivers Discord for all to see, including the DS10 light armor, the 𝗕cie 𝗿𝐿𝐴 machete, and the Eternal Corona cape and card. Now, for all of our new recruits out there, this is how a normal Warbond works, and that you have the Warbond on sale for 1,000 super credits alongside special superstore shops that offer up additional themed items relating to that Warbond. I'm a big fan of all three armor types, and I love getting options in all three categories, and I know a lot of you are eyeing that machete. How lethal is that thing gonna be when we get to hacking our foes? The more I think about it, it's too bad we don't have a third dedicated slot strictly for a melee weapon, but never say never, right? Now we get to the good stuff, starting off with a topic I've seen tossed around through various sites, with the general message being Tuesday's Xbox Team Green launch, along with the ODST Warbond player counts, were a fluke. Helldivers will never see player counts like that again, and while it was a crazy spike of players for sure, that is right, it isn't like the game just fell off to oblivion the day after. In fact, at peak player counts on Tuesday for PC, we were seeing just shy of 168,000 players. Yesterday evening, so that's Friday night, it was at nearly 138,000. That's only a 30,000 player count difference, and I was on kind of late too. It was around 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The total player counts were sitting around 330,000 players at that point. I mean, that's not bad for 3 days after the Warbond dropped, and we haven't even made it into next week, where we get the new content drop with the Into the Unjust, and then 2 days after that, the 𝗕𝗏𝗍𝗶𝘀𝗀𝗃 Warbond. Taking a quick look at the Helldivers Companion App right now, and as of about 3:15 on Saturday, the counts are already at 280,000 and rising quickly. So while 500,000 plus is insane, yes, I'll give you that, and it may not be reached again for a while, 300,000 to 400,000 is still very respectable. Taking that player count discussion a bunch of steps further, we've got breaking news being posted by Tech4Gamers.com with this headline. Helldivers 2 reportedly sold more than twice as many copies on PC as on PS5, sold 12 million copies on PC. Helldivers 2 was launched on the PC and PS5 simultaneously on February 8th, 2024. Just 3 days after launch, the game had sold 1 million copies Previously, in May 2024, Sony revealed that the game had sold over 12 million copies in just 12 weeks. However, the company never revealed how many copies were sold individually on the platforms. While there is no official record, an analyst firm has revealed that Helldivers 2 has sold more than twice as many copies as it sold on the PS5. I think they were trying to say twice as many copies on the PC as it sold on the PS5. Why it matters? With Sony gradually embracing a multi-platform strategy, its approach to exclusivity is changing. Looking ahead, this could mean more PlayStation titles arriving on PC at launch, potentially even day one releases. According to analyst firm Alinea Analytics, hopefully I didn't butcher that name, Helldivers 2 has sold 12 million copies on Steam alone, while PlayStation 5 sales are estimated at 5 million units. Since its recent launch on Xbox, the game has already sold 600,000 copies in just a few days. This brings the total sales to around 18 million copies. This figure aligns with expectations, considering Sony last reported 12 million sales over a year ago, meaning an additional 6 million copies sold in that period isn't surprising. These figures highlight the dominance of the PC market, which may encourage Sony to release its games on the platform sooner and more frequently. However, it's essential to note that these numbers are based on analyst estimates, not official confirmations. So, while we recommend taking this with a grain of salt, if accurate, it's huge news for PC players. Now, I gotta say I was stunned by those numbers and also concerned that I had missed any post from Sony, Xbox, Steam, or Arrowhead pumping up those sales numbers, because no matter which way you cut it, 18 million copies sold is a big, big number. So I decided to dig a little bit deeper. Who is Alinea Analytics and where are they getting their data from? Well, it turns out they base these numbers off of reviews and then place a ratio on that figure, ultimately landing on a projection of what they think the copies sold and player counts are for each platform. Now, in the past, I've used one of these firms when I was working on a piece about Ark Survival Ascended and how many copies it had sold, and although I was working with a completely different group at that time, their methods ended up being very accurate when compared with Ark's published numbers, which came out much later during an investor's call. So there is precedence for these methods and projections being solid, but I would guess that there is also evidence showing the contrary. I can't say I've worked with Alinea Analytics in the past, and up until now, the only real player counts we know about are from Sony, when last year they stated that Helldivers 2 had sold 12 million copies in its first 12 weeks, but those were combined, PS5 and PC, and we've seen a few other counts here and there, which are usually fragments of the entire picture. And certainly nothing like this we just saw from Alinea, but if they are accurate, 18 million and 600,000 plus copies sold on Xbox, those are some huge player counts and number of copies sold, which is supported by Helldivers' performance right now on Steam, with it currently sitting at number 5 on the Steam charts for daily active users, and also number 2 on the global best-selling games charts, again, for Steam. What do you think about that 18 million figure where Alinea says it's for copies sold? Is it accurate? Is it encouraging but requires hard evidence before you're convinced? Which I personally think is the best solution. But yeah, definitely sound off with a comment, and I'm genuinely interested in reading through those, because now we need to turn to an equally fascinating topic that the Gamer dropped just as I was editing this video, of course, that reads, "It's absolutely morale crushing. Helldivers 2 players are accusing Arrowhead of mismanaging the Galactic War." Earlier this week, Helldivers 2 got a significant amount of reinforcements thanks to the game's release on Xbox. Not only were new recruits arriving in droves, but the surge was enough to see Helldivers 2 reach a new all-time player count of 389,092 Helldivers active at one time. We, of course, know that Shams posted over in the official Discord it reached over 500,000 at one time. But anyways, with that amount of help, you'd think that the Illuminate, Terminids, and Automatons would be quaking in their boots. Unfortunately, that hasn't been the case. Over the past week, Helldivers 2 players have actually managed to lose every single planet that was under attack, despite the gigantic rise in soldiers on the field and a large amount of new weaponry from the game's recent Warbonds. Unsurprisingly, this has rankled the game's player base just a little bit. In a new post by a Reddit user called 𝗵𝗆𝗆𝗃 of the Raccoons on the Helldivers subreddit, they claim that the Galactic War is currently being, quote, managed very poorly by the game masters. They say that the giant influx of Xbox players has no impact on the war itself, and that it's both lore-breaking and stupid game design-wise, as well as absolutely morale-crushing. They go on to pick fault with the defense of the planet 𝗕cie chị𝗿𝗄𝗄 in particular, which they claim had over 120,000 Helldivers fighting on it at one point, only for it to fall regardless. It's led to many calls from fans for Arrowhead to work on how it manages the population modifiers of the game, asking for them to apply to each front individually. So players feel like they're helping more, and that we avoid instances of planets successfully being defended by 8,000 divers, but losing planets with over 100,000. Another solution that players put forward is to reduce the resources of enemies from other planets if Arrowhead wants to put up a firm fight against a massive number of players. Meanwhile, others use this opportunity to criticize Arrowhead's decision to make the Galactic War drag on for so long, as opposed to the first Helldivers in which you could actually lose the Galactic War. A user called 𝗷𝗵𝗆𝗃𝗀𝗃 says that the whole Galactic War just feels like, quote, smoke and mirrors, while 𝗕vantes88 says that the lack of threat removes any strategy or interest in the war itself. They have been recurring complaints since the game launched, but have been brought forward again thanks to Xbox players having little impact on the war as a whole. It made the whole thing feel too artificial, and Arrowhead might want to start thinking about reacting appropriately to its own player base. Okay, I don't normally see the gamer lay into a subject just like they did there at the ending, but I will definitely include a link to this Reddit post down in the video description. And by the way, this post has over 4,300 upvotes, and it does make some good points down in the discussion. I do agree that the liberation scaling system, which is explained nowhere in the game, is a brutal mystery to most players, because they see the Helldivers mob on a planet, they go there, they put in the grind time along with thousands of other divers, and the net result is we lose. Scaling and the galactic modifier system is a topic we may go into in the future, but essentially, the more divers you have logged on, the harder it is to achieve results during operations, which the post does mention here. Quote, the liberation scaling with the player counts makes sense up to a point, but if you tell me that 8,000 Helldivers and 120,000 Helldivers yields the exact same outcome, then what's the point? In fact, it was easier to liberate planets when fewer people were playing. Does that sound right design-wise, lore-wise, morale-wise? Yeah, that's certainly one more item that needs to be added to the to-do list over at Arrowhead, as we need something that is easy to understand, is explained in the game, and it just makes sense. You know what I mean? But before we end today, there's also been a Johan sighting over on Reddit, as he posted a lengthy love letter to the community. Link in the video description to this one. And for all of our new divers out there, Johan is the former CEO of Arrowhead Studios, who stepped out of that role to take a sabbatical while still remaining on as chairman and CCO at the studio. All right. A lot has happened in the Helldivers universe, and here's where you get to sound off with your thoughts and feedback by dropping me a comment. Anything and everything Helldivers is the order of the day, so hit that comment section, and I look forward to reading your post. If you haven't done so already, please take a moment to hit subscribe and to ring the notifications bell to stay up to date on all things Helldivers. Thanks to all of our channel members and your continued support. And by the way, if you're interested in becoming a channel member, look for the join button on my YouTube homepage. And until the next one, this is Lieutenant 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, signing off.